Hi, everybody. Rebecca Kraber here, and I have with me Jamie Van Dock, who is the director for faith formation at Raleigh Moravian Church in Raleigh, North Carolina. And Jamie, I invited you here to talk to us a little bit about um, Legos in worship and to just tell us where that idea came from and how it's gone and what you've learned from it.
Sure. Well, when we were sort of coming back to more full programming at Raleigh, kind of after the pandemic shutdown, fewer of my families were feeling really comfortable putting their children in the nursery. They were more likely keeping their children with them in the worship space, which I love. Um, but fewer of the leaflets and the children's bulletins and kind of the coloring pages that were attached to each week as I would put them out on our worship cart seemed to be utilized. And I had a pretty active group of second and third graders who were very much into Lego building. And so I kind of considered what would it look like if we had a more active or interactive worship cart that wasn't just your kind of standard worship bags, which can be really great. There's been a lot of really great things that have come out for them that I think do a great job of connecting children to worship. But a lot of times the things that end up in those really are just more of a keep quiet bag than a really connect to worship bag. And so I was looking for something that was a little bit more than that, something that was collaborative, something that we could build upon over time, and something that was a little bit more active than what we had been using previously. So we are a Lego family. We had a ton of Legos at our house. And so I just decided that I would put out a cart. And of course, Lego means play well. And so I thought I would develop this play well creative cart that sits outside of our worship space. As children walk from Sunday school toward the sanctuary, they pass by this mobile Lego play well cart. And to prep it, I sort of just built a kind of four-walled sanctuary with a rudimentary, communion table and a couple of people. And I just said, help me fill this sanctuary, and put out bins and some bags with the intention that children would take a few handfuls, fill the bag, go to the pew, and during the course of worship, they would build something to add to our sanctuary. And that's what we did for a while. And like all good ideas, they should never be left at their first version. And so I learned over time that Raleigh has a brick floor, and that does not create for a very forgiving acoustic space. And so some Sunday mornings you would hear kind of the raining Legos on the floor. And so in an effort to be, fair and conscientious of those in the worship space, especially those who might be, harder of hearing, I wanted to try to figure out how can we keep this, but maybe adapt it a little bit to make it a little quieter, a little easier to carry these creations and these little pieces. So version two of the worship cart included some TV trays that I bought in bulk on Amazon, and we lined the TV trays with rectangles of felt. And then on the bottom side, we put some of those grippy um, pads that people use to line their kitchen shelves. And so that kind of made them anti-slip, so they don't slip off of the children's laps or off of the church pews. And the Legos within the tray kind of have a soft acoustic space with the felt lining. And so, yeah, the children have continued to use them. And if ever we were curious about whether or not the children were still listening, or okay, can they be doing these things and still be tuned into what's going on in worship? I mean, they have continued to raise their hand to the rhetorical questions, in the sermon. They've continued to shout out answers to rhetorical things in the sermon. And they've been excited to show me the things that they have built to add to our worship cart, to the point of extra pews with more people. At one point, I think we had a stormtrooper serving as the acolyte with communion. We've had a bakery extension to represent love feast. I mean, we've had a whole lot of things that have been added to, and every once in a while we just clear the docks and we tear it all apart and we start over. And so there's kind of this opportunity to continue to co-create this mini figure sanctuary space with them over the course of time.
That sounds great. And it does seem to interact with the kids of all ages. Like I'm a member at Raleigh, and so I get to see this firsthand with my own children. But it seems like there's a lot of even interaction at the cart, like which things they're going to get, what they're going to build today, and that kind of conversation that I think would be interesting to see. Like, what is that mirrored in the adults who are having conversation when we go into worship? Do we anticipate like what are we going to bring with us to worship, and what are we going to create while we're there to take out with us? So it's a really cool thing that I think a lot of congregations might think about trying it, and so are there any other things that you didn't share that you think might be something to consider if somebody wanted to create a cart like this in their space?
I think anytime you do something, it's always good. It's good to say we're going to try this for a season. Nobody's married to any idea forever. Some things have a season. So maybe, trying it out during a certain, number of weeks during a liturgical season and say, let's build symbols around Advent. And we're only going to have the card out for those 4 weeks. And that way you kind of have an idea of you've piloted it for a season, then you take the card away and you see, do the kids miss it? Or is somebody asking about it? Is there a curiosity around it? And that was sort of the case at Raleigh. I brought it out as sort of a summer trial of let's do this and see how it goes in the summer, when our nursery numbers are really low anyways. And then I took it away for a few weeks, and kids were like, where did the Legos go? And there was obviously a lament about that presence being missed. And so I knew that it was something that they missed. And so, I brought it back and I reintroduced it with the trays and, upgraded it a little bit. But yeah, I think just trying something and saying, we're going to try this for 3 or 4 weeks and then have a discussion with parents about it. Like, what was your experience with it? It gives them some agency too to say, how is this working for you in your pew space, and how can we do this better?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing us a little bit about how you're kind of shifting hospitality and worship and creating some space for something different that maybe no one else had thought about. But ways to engage and to build on who we are in new ways. So thank you so much, Jamie.
Thank you.
Do, do, do.